What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Daemon Hatfield. Joining me this week is Tina Amini.
What's up, everybody?
Sam Claiborn.
This new set.
And Justin Davis.
Scoop.
We've got a great show for you this week. I know last week I said that episode 600 was coming up, but then I remembered, foolish me, I remembered that it's unlucky to have a 600th episode the week before Halloween. So we're going to save 600 for next week. And this is just an episode of Game Scoop. Not a numbered episode, it's an episode.
Yeah. You didn't find out which one we missed?
Oh, I know which one we missed, because that one is also unlucky.
Oh, that's right.
It's like the White Album.
Yeah.
So now we're going to be off by 2?
No, we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
Okay.
This is the self-titled episode of Game Scoop.
Right.
Exactly.
It's just called Game Scoop, Game Scoop.
The podcast formerly known as Game
Scoop
Scoop.
of Games.
It's still going to be a great show. We're going to talk about the biggest achievements that we saw over this generation of gaming as this generation goes over the horizon as the sun sets and we begin a new generation. Whoa, I'm hearing some interesting issues there.
It might have been me. I'm going to mute for a sec, but I'll stay here.
Okay. Well, you're not muted. Nintendo just announced they are localizing one of their older games for the first time ever, which is pretty exciting for gamers of a certain ilk, like myself.
I don't think it's exciting for anybody.
I'm excited, and Pear's excited.
Yeah, I saw Pear's excited. That's true.
But first, a little Hobbit humor.
Okay.
So Bilbo Baggins was suddenly awoken by somebody singing "Don't Stop Believin'." It was an unexpected journey.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Good.
And you're going
And
to break into song and dance.
Because Journey, the band, wrote "Don't Stop Believing."
thank you for explaining
Bringing it home.
the joke.
The best jokes are the ones you explain afterwards.
Mhm.
I've
Everybody
always
knows.
said that.
We begin with listener emails. So let's go ahead and check in with the listeners.
Hey,
Hey,
listeners.
Listeners, remember, you can always reach us at the email address, gamescoop@ign.com, just like Baker did. And
First
Baker
of all,
says,
this is the most efficient show ever. We're almost at 20 questions.
that's what you can do when it's not a numbered episode. It frees you up.
It's not even an episode.
Damon, you know what we should do? Every April Fool's Day in my house, we eat the meals backwards. So we have like spaghetti for breakfast.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then-
It's crazy.
So- I think that we should do that next April.
Okay.
You know, one day your daughters are going to catch on that you're not doing ice cream for breakfast.
That's true. You really should be starting with dessert.
Yeah, they got to eat their growing foods first, even on a silly day.
I do like the idea of starting with 20 questions, but working backwards. So
Give us the answer.
Yeah, exactly. What are the questions that are associated? It's Jeopardy version.
Like,
And
I
then
don't know if you guys have noticed this either, but we're getting the laugh track of John Borba right now, which is like
I like
my
it, yeah.
favorite thing ever. I think we should keep it.
I think so too.
Because he's definitely laughed at my jokes, which I really appreciate.
This
That's why I
episode
keep
of-
them in there.
This episode of Game Scoop was filmed in front of a studio audience of one. Okay, Baker. Email from Baker, who says,
Okay.
I was a diehard 360 gamer, but in 2012, I got sucked into the tabletop board game scene and ended up entirely skipping the Xbox One and PS4 generation.
Cool.
Now I'm coming back and managed to successfully land an Xbox Series S pre-order. That's very impressive. Pretty excited since even the launch games will feel next gen to me, since I haven't played anything since 2013-ish. In preparation, I have resubscribed to GameScoop to try and get reacclimated to the current gaming landscape. I'm curious what y'all would say are some of the major advancements, graphically, user interface, peripherals, etc., that have happened in the last 7 years I've been gone, besides the obvious that it all just looks better.
Great question.
So hair looks better, faces look worse.
Is that true? I know they still haven't really gotten lip syncing for the most part.
Well, it's uncanny valley, right? The closer you
Yeah.
get to realistic faces, the weirder they weird you out.
And also, hair hasn't really begun to look better. Once they can get long hair working well, then we know we're at a good juncture with video games and graphics.
I thought Final Fantasy VII had some pretty good stubble in it.
Good stubble.
Yeah, the reason why long hair is difficult is just because of physics. Like, it'll start clipping into your shoulders. So people always, like, you'll see, like, you know, female characters with long hair. It's always up in a ponytail or something, like, to kind of distract from that. That's been their solution. So that's my barometer. Because we got watered down. Water's pretty Water's looking pretty good this
Water's
generation.
looking great. Yeah, ponytails are looking good too. If you have to put hair at some format, you might as well just ponytail it.
The ponytail is also practical.
That's true, because video games are definitely known for practical wear.
Well, I've had a ponytail before in my life, and it never clipped into my shoulder.
And that's because you live in the real world.
I think that's kind of a Pixar didn't happen scenario.
You're not seeing me with long hair? When did I start IGN? Okay, we'll
2007 or 8. Yeah.
I'm gonna need to see it on a potato first.
Yeah, for sure.
Tina, has hair improved since 2013's Tomb Raider reboot? Maybe it wasn't 2013. 2012.
Yeah, not really. I wanted, like, Final Fantasy VII did have some interesting hairstyles and some longer hair. Like Tifa had longer hair and it was down. So that was okay. I think they just parted it specifically. So yes, to a degree.
Those bees look really good in Super Mario Galaxy. They're very hairy.
Oh yeah. Did we ever come down on whether or not the bees have fur? Whether it's called fur.
Exactly. Yeah. I saw a very furry spider yesterday and it freaked me out. I think what we're kind of beating around here is that games have hit like a point where like graphics are good now. Things can look good, but like art styles are the things that are standing out to us more, not really graphical big leaps and bounds, which is a cool time to be in.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think like what was it? Rockstar was peddling around Red Dead 2, like there were bear mark scratches in the trees, and they were like, "Look how cool these scratches are!" Just because like there's a level of detail now. So I guess you can consider that more artistic value, where you can actually render that much more detail, and allegedly the next gen consoles will be able to do even more than that. So that's like a really good point. Additive thing, yeah.
I have my real answer to this question is that everything is open world now, and that's a trend that started the generation before with games like Assassin's Creed and like obviously things like Grand Theft Auto have always been open world, but now there's an expectation that like if a game like Dishonored comes out and it's not open world, everyone's like, oh, that's a little weird, that's surprising. Like I feel like it's become the default for any like big AAA game, is that it is going to be open, or at the very least wide linear, which is also a term that's probably been coined over the last generation. Meaning games like Uncharted or like Gears 5 that take you through sort of section by section, but then within each section there's like big open spaces that you can explore. Last of Us 2 as well fits into that bucket.
There also, I think last generation, the big thing used to be you can play anyway, like you can stealth or you can go guns blazing. That was the sort of thing that I always heard on the PR preview beats. And I think this generation finally accepted that as like, okay, every game kind of has an element to that. It's no longer special, but you can make your own choices that semi-impact the narrative in one way or another. So that became a little bit more popularized too.
Yeah. Do you remember how... Go ahead, Damon.
Well, I was going to sort of agree with both Justin and Tina's points. Cool. When I think about something like Assassin's Creed, something that started out pretty, narrowly focused on recreating the experience of an ancient assassin has now become like a jack of all trades. It's, you can still assassinate people, but you can also just go in with a combat focus if you want. And there is huge open world exploration. And now there's crafting systems, it's just
hunting.
Like everything that they can throw into those games now, they throw in there.
Yeah.
Everything.
Please.
So, someone go.
Go, Justin.
It's just going to say that everything is an RPG now.
That's true.
Which is another trend that I think started last generation, but like now every single game has to have like a skill system and crafting system and, gear and loot. That's really, really pervasive in AAA gaming in a way that I don't think it had quite gotten there last gen.
When the original Borderlands came out, we thought, me and some other folks at IGN thought it was so weird and crazy that numbers flew out of people when you shot them.
Love it.
And now that's just every game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was such a unique concept to marry certain RPG elements, but it turns out progression is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And being able to see that you're actually making progress. Do you remember when there would be bosses where you didn't even know if you were hurting them? And then they added bosses that kind of like changed color a little bit in old games. It's really funny. It used to be like, I don't know if I'm actually killing this boss and I'm 15 minutes into it. I hated that.
But they would also do the opposite where sometimes things would have 2 health bars. Oh
yeah. Yeah, the health bar goes all the way down, and then all of a sudden it's like green health bar. I think that's
that recently. I don't go through those shields.
I don't mind that if you can see if you can see the next level underneath, if you as long as they're being transparent. Well, like you just said, if it's green, yellow, then red, and then they're really dead. As long as they're being transparent about it.
Everybody's nursery rhyme.
Green, yellow, red, then dead.
Then they're dead.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah,
I absolutely did that on purpose.
There's a level of non-graphical fidelity that's been added to games in the form of acting and performance, which last generation we were all like amazed when Portal 2 came out. We're like, this is incredible. This whole game is acted so well and it's really cleverly written. That's now in the most impressive games still have like really impressive amounts of that, but it's just blown up so much that even Assassin's Creed, like every line in Assassin's Creed when you're just walking around talking to people is like acted and well scripted and good. And like Assassin's Creed's like a AAA game, but it's like I expect that out of Red Dead a lot more than I expected out of Assassin's Creed, but we get it with Assassin's Creed now. And you get it with lots of games. Even indie games can be really well acted and scripted, even if they have like cartoon-like cutscenes or something like that. A little
mocap is more of a staple now. Even like using celebrities in your games become more of a staple too if you have a AAA budget for it. So it's definitely like an emphasis on narrative, but performance too.
Yep. A lot
also,
more
DLC
cinematic.
is cool now.
And free a lot.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, DLC used to be like, oh, they're cramming this stuff in, and nobody wants a half-shipped game. We're paying full price for it, but nobody has those complaints really anymore. I think people are excited. Like when the Control DLC came out, people were over the moon to have a reason to revisit it, and they kind of consider it as, oh, the developers are now working on this next project, and it's about sustaining that game's shelf life, not about squeezing more money out of you. Like I think the perspective has changed, I guess.
Yeah, the perspective used to be it's not on the disc. Why did I buy the disc then? And that like you barely hear that expressed, if at all, anymore. And I think like that's exactly what I look forward to. If I love a game, I'm excited that in 3 months or whatever there'll be more content for it. And I definitely didn't feel that way initially. I was like, I feel like I just bought 90% of a game.
Speaking of buying the disc, over the past generation, fewer people are buying the disc, and now the majority of game sales are digital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And there's also like this, there's genres that have come and gone, and genres that are like really prevalent right now. And one that's prevalent right now is this is a more industry term. I know people don't know it as well, but it's games of service or Destiny likes, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, that is the whole point of it is DLC and downloading stuff and making sure you're part of that game. And people kind of have like, it's almost like what MMOs were like 10 years ago. There's like kind of factional interest in those type of games. And like, you might just play this one game for a long time, but it doesn't have to be an MMO anymore.
Mm-hmm. Borba brings up battle royales are also a feature of this generation too, and that became widely popularized and expanded into many other territories.
And I guess the hero shooter as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which wasn't new because like Team Fortress had done that, but Overwatch certainly gave that genre a jolt of life, right? Games like Warframe, I believe.
But battle royales, that's 100% like that's a contemporary thing that if you didn't have a system over the past 7 years, like you haven't played a battle royale because there just wasn't an example of one.
Unless you're playing on PC or mobile, but sure.
Yeah, your iPhone.
Yeah.
Not Fortnite anymore.
Well, yeah. Yeah, if you hadn't already downloaded it. I think a big trend in the indie gaming space has been the resurgence of roguelikes, spurred on largely by Spelunky, but then also games like Binding of Isaac. There's just so many roguelike. I feel like every week there's new roguelikes coming out, and they're not all great, but there are a lot of really good ones and a lot of different genres. There's side-scrolling platformers like Spelunky and like Rogue Legacy, but then there's like turn-based strategy roguelikes like Into the Breach. And turn-based dungeon crawlers like Darkest Dungeon. So that's definitely something that grew over the last 7 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And then with that, membership models too, where you can like subscribe to an online and a deals service with whatever your console of choice is and get bundles of things. Mm-hmm. Also backward compatibility. There's lots of new stuff this generation.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about since Baker pre-ordered an Xbox Series S. Justin, we've talked a lot on the show about how great it is to get a console at the end of its life.
Yeah, it's the best.
But like buying an Xbox Series S is kind of just the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because he gets access to every game in the Xbox One library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's all those games on Game Pass, right? So I strongly recommend that he subscribe to Game Pass for a few months at least. But yeah, like the store Xbox is so progressive in that way, where I had a urge, this is over a year ago now, but like I had a real urge to revisit like SSX, and I was able to just, our games like Symphony of the Night, and like that was an Xbox 360 live arcade game. Was just able to log in, buy it, install it on my Xbox One, the same as if it were a game released on that console. Like that seamless backwards compatibility is going to be a real godsend for someone that like dipped out of gaming and is now back.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of remakes and Nintendo just, doing old games all over again, that's been a theme too.
Wait, what do you mean, like specifically?
For this generation, I guess they're not. I guess Baker's not counting Nintendo necessarily, but regardless, like this generation has had a lot of like reissuing of games or porting of games.
Well, yeah, remake, just like remakes. Yeah,
it's the year of remakes, as we heard in 20 Questions last week.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, seriously, that's like that was around before, but like now there's so much nostalgia packed into marketing, and like the way to, like the biggest Nintendo game this fall is 3 old Nintendo games. I mean, that's and it's totally accepted. People were super hyped for it. Like they're just really, really pleased to get that package, and also really angry about what wasn't in that package because they wanted more remakes.
I think you could also attribute the more mainstream focus of VR to this generation too. More towards the tail end, but that's certainly become a big staple of this generation.
Yep,
yeah. Was it Polygon that had that? I think it was Polygon has that really interesting feature right now. As like VR has been 5 minutes away for like 8 years now, and like it can't quite break through. Like everyone's like, it's right around the corner, and it never quite gets there. But it's still growing, right? Like every year VR is still bigger than it was the year before. It's continuing to sort of slowly trudge up the mountain, and remains to be seen whether it is going to take over the mainstream or not. But this was definitely the biggest year for VR ever, and thanks to Half-Life Alyx and the Oculus Quest 2. So we'll see what happens in the future. But that's definitely something that if you dipped out of games in like 2013, none of that was really here yet.
You know what you would have missed if you didn't have the last gen is you would have missed the Kinect, which was really strange. That was a really weird time.
Well, but the Kinect was on 360.
Yeah, that's true, but it came with the Xbox One.
Yeah, for a time.
Do you think it hooks up to the 1S?
I don't know about that. That's interesting. I don't know.
I wonder if he was only doing board games. I want him to write back in and let us know. Like he's probably playing Pandemic Legacy and Gloomhaven and all the big AAA hottest board games. I want to know more about that.
What about something that's become ubiquitous in any open world game is a photo mode?
Oh yeah, photo modes.
Yeah,
Ghost has the best one.
Ghost is really good.
I just played through the part in Breath of the Wild where you get like a camera and they force you to start using it and stuff. And I didn't remember this, but in that game, you can complete that game by taking like 1,000 photos of like every single animal and dragonfly and blade of grass, which is so crazy.
You can complete the game by doing that?
Well, it's like if you're going to 100% it.
Oh, okay.
You would have to get all of these photos and they're obnoxious.
John, we might be able to hear you, your keyboard.
What John
just
typed
typing,
us.
Lol.
He says that we can hear him, but the audience cannot hear him.
Oh really? Man, I wouldn't mind if his laugh track was on the actual.
Wow, it's been a confusing 15 minutes.
No, I was gonna say
not having an episode number, starting at the end, hearing laughs out of nowhere. I think this episode might be haunted.
Ooh, it is spooky season.
Ooh, wow.
We need to get the soundboard for Daemon and just put Borba's laugh on it.
Awesome. Sounds like Zangief.
Or Karnov.
Yeah.
Borba, you should think about being a Karnov for Halloween sometime. A couple other things. There are share buttons on the controllers that allow you to immediately upload game footage to social. That's something totally new to this generation. And another like type of game that I think is very unique to this generation is the Twitch bait game. The game that maybe isn't all that great and is kind of janky, but it can be kind of funny to look at or watch people play. And if they can get a popular streamer to play their game, then maybe their game will find some success that way.
Yeah.
You know, the first game I remember that being was the goat simulator.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like a close relation to the Twitch bait game is a game that's like bad on purpose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Quap.
What totally realistic battle simulators? Is that what it's called? Something like that. All right, I think we've covered off on every advancement we saw this generation.
We didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be.
Happy game this generation.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't mention a couple other features like Sam, you mentioned this earlier, not on this show, but earlier to us about like background installations and updates and suspending games and stuff. So a couple of those features that you're obviously seeing mirrored in the next generation too. Yeah,
do you remember how annoying it was to update your PS3? It was like this really horrible thing. Yeah, and now you can have that stuff.
Now you don't need it.
Yeah, and then remote install is the best thing ever. Like I can go on my phone and like buy a game and install it on my Xbox. It's so good. Like I think this is the smartest stuff, and that's only going to get better.
Borba just mentioned prohibitively large game install sizes. That's definitely been a theme of this console generation too.
Yeah. There's no such thing as enough space on your SSD. That's just,
just not you get possible. Like 2 or 3 games and then you're tapped.
Yeah, we're at a point like the next
you've got a 500 gig hard drive and the latest Call of Duty is like 120 gigs.
It's going to be such a problem next gen where like these $500 consoles have a 1 terabyte hard drive, and the usable space is whatever it is, 900 gigs. And then, games are already 100 gigabytes for a big AAA game.
Yeah. Ugh. And sometimes you get it on disc and you have to install it and then it's 100 gigabytes and a disc. That's so crazy.
And then you get 100 gigabyte patch after patch.
Yeah, some of those patches are nuts. That's not an exaggeration. I've at least had like a 30 gigabyte patch before. Like I remember Final Fantasy VII got a few in there. I was like, what are they putting in this? Are they putting in entire, like texture packs and levels? It was huge.
Just a new game. They're hoping you don't notice.
Yeah, exactly. It's Final Fantasy VIII remake. No, it's part 2.
There you go.
I reached a point. It's sad. It's always a sad moment when you have a console where my Switch is full. Which that's an SD card, so I can buy a bigger SD card, but then I have to go through the rigmarole of like, dragging everything onto the new SD card. So it's like better than your console hard drive filling up, but it's like it's the worst. It feels so great for like 2 years or however active you're playing, maybe a year if you're downloading everything. And then it gets full. And then it's like, oh no. Am I really ready to delete? Then it's like killing off your children. Like, I don't know. Am I going to play Red Dead ever again? I'm not sure. That was one that I deleted. I finally nixed it off my PS5 or PS4. I'm like, I don't think I'm going back to it.
Yeah.
The worst version of that was that on old memory sticks, like, if you had a memory stick, you had to actually delete your
You had to delete your saves.
Yeah, you're just like, well, I probably won't be playing Smash Brothers, which I unlocked everything all over in. Like that's like that's a crazy choice to make.
It was really sad, and then that came.
Or they just wipe themselves. They'd just be dead one day.
Well, the memory cards on the PS1 had 15 blocks on them, and a game save was like 1 block, and like that seems crazy now in the context of 2020. But it's what you had to do in the dark ages.
Mm-hmm.
So Baker has many happy gaming hours ahead of him with his Xbox Series S. Let's each recommend a game from this generation for him to check out. I'll recommend Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I don't know. I'm like forgetting everything that came out more than 3 years ago. Red Dead's an obvious one.
Yeah.
I would also say Inside, because I was thinking about it earlier, but there's a spoiler associated with it when we were talking about physics. So I didn't want to mention it. It's a short game. Everybody on the planet should play it. It's pretty good, but I'll count that one.
I didn't finish it, and it wasn't like completely for me, but I thought it was like a cool example of a contemporary game. Was The Witness. I just thought that was like a neat game, and like if you just have time on your hands and want to play something that got a 10, check it out.
You jerks took all 3 of mine.
I just took that one intentionally because I knew.
I literally was about those. That was about to come out of my mouth. I don't know. Like I'm like Spider-Man, God of War. No.
All PS,
Well, I it's still in my backlog, but I really, really want to play Gears 5 and hear nothing but great things about it. And when next gen comes around, that like I'm super excited to like go back and check out Gears, and I'm glad that franchise is. I was gonna say turned around. I don't think it was ever bad, but like I'm glad that it's still putting out really, really great experiences that people love.
Yeah.
Also, Borba says Witcher 3, which I also highly recommend, even though I played it on Switch.
Yeah, Witcher 3.
And Metal Gear Solid 5.
I was gonna say, As an honorable mention, Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh man, Witcher 3 is so great.
Okay. Let's check in with some.
Saying goodbye to Justin.
Yeah. He is
Sorry.
Was that duties.
It was Cat asking to get out. Oh no, asking to come in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's check in with some news today. Nintendo just announced Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. It was the original Fire Emblem game released on the Famicom, I want to say 1990, but was never localized here. It was remade for the DS, which I reviewed. And that was very
really?
Good. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
What'd you give it?
I want to say an 8.5.
We don't do that anymore.
I know.
You have to choose now.
Some of the old times. Well, anyway, but that original Famicom game was never localized here. So it's going to be like the 8-bit version, which I think is very cool. It's coming to the Nintendo eShop. It's not going to be part of Nintendo's Switch Online service. It's going to be $6. And it is also bafflingly only going to be available for a limited time until, it's out what date? It's out in December. I didn't write down the release date.
The pre-order is in December, and then they stop selling it at the end of March.
Yeah, March 31st, 2021.
What is going on?
A very annoying thing Nintendo has decided to start doing. I don't know.
What is there any precedent for this?
No, and like the Mario stuff at least had the flimsy, like bad excuse, but it had the excuse of like it's Mario's 35th anniversary. So once the anniversary's over, like the games go away. Like there's absolutely no justification for taking Fire Emblem offline.
Well,
it's crazy.
They're saying it's 35th anniversary, but it's still
There are a couple of games that they're basically removing on that date. We may or may not be working on a story on that right now. But basically, the one detail that we do know of is that they're in Japan. That's kind of when they close out their end of the year financials. So
it's the end of Nintendo's financial year, but still.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, the precedent people compare it to is the Disney tapes, right?
Yeah,
that they
going
had
back
like
in the vault.
Yeah.
Is that what? And they had like, are those clamshell VHS tapes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They must have taken those
chunky plastic ones. Yeah.
Yeah, but like those were like only temporarily available for times. Like I didn't even know that was a thing. That's crazy.
They would rotate them in and out.
The Disney Vault was a real thing. Look at how cool this gameplay looks, though. Like I think it's so cool and unprecedented. Like this is a total like indie developer thing to do, right? Like it's not a Nintendo thing to do. It's so out of character for them to take this NES game and like translate it into a language it's never been in before. Like I think it's super rad, and I'm excited to see if it's a sign of things to come. It's really out of left field too, because the game did get a remake, and that was how they sort of brought that game and those characters like Marth, into the U.S. gaming lexicon for the first time. So, really unusual and surprising, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I'll buy it for $6 for sure.
That was kind of the premise of their trailer too. It's like two kids talking like, "You don't know Marth?" Well, I guess because it was only available in 1990 in Japan, but sure, here's an explanation. You get to experience Marth.
It's a super self-aware trailer that I thought was really cute because those characters are in Smash Brothers before they had ever been in an English language game before.
I want to say the first I think the first English language Fire Emblem came to GameCube.
There's a Game Boy Advance one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's that era though. Game Boy Advance and GameCube are the same era. It took 10, 12 years for Fire Emblem to come here, and it did not take off very quickly. That collector's edition is going to be like so astronomically rare. Like it's so funny because you can tell like Japan has a reason to celebrate Fire Emblem's anniversary. Like it was a series for 10 years longer than here. Like it had a lot going for it and people know about it there. So like doing an anniversary special just makes sense, but you can tell they just kind of said like, okay, let's bring 5,000 of those to the United States and just see how they do. And then they're putting, that kind of makes sense to me. And it's unfortunate, but translating the whole game in English is crazy. That game is not a small game to translate. It's not like Super Mario Brothers, which has like maybe a page of text in the whole game, and it was in English to begin with. Like, this is crazy. It's whole storylines they translated, and on the NES that was really difficult to do. There's like character limits, and the way that Japanese characters work versus English characters, like that, it's all difficult to do that. And you saw the result of that on the NES. Like, it wasn't done well. There's like tons of problems with localized NES games. So the fact that somebody went into this basically ROM and ROM hacked it is just crazy. Like, it must be they must have had to take it and just tear it apart and just kind of build it like the NES remix games from scratch.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm curious about. Is did they go in and modify that original ROM and like shove the English language in there, meaning that it has to, all the text has to fit in the same number of character
Can
boxes?
you jump it onto an NES cartridge now?
Yeah, or that's my exact question. Maybe they did treat it more like NES Remix. We're like, well, okay, it's not actually an NES ROM. It's just like, it's got a different set of code powering it under the hood. We'll have to see. That collector's edition this afternoon, as we recorded this, went up for pre-order on GameStop.com and sold out in like 8 seconds.
Wow. The anniversary edition, it's $50. It includes an actual physical NES box with an NES game pack and the sleeve, and a 200
like crystal clear though. It's not like a playable cartridge.
Yeah, it's not. It's an art piece. Nintendo
like
calls it
acrylic art piece.
It also has a 222-page art book and a mini Nintendo Power issue.
Yeah,
or they call it retro collectible. So like, I don't know.
It's so cool. It's only, only in air quotes, but like it's only $50, which is like, seems like a pretty good deal if you're a big fan. And I'm glad that they specified the page count for that art book, because I have seen a lot of collector's editions that like it comes with an art book and you get it, and then it's just a flimsy piece of junk.
Yeah, two staples and like 12 images.
Yeah.
I think this is super cool. It's just another a reminder that you can never really predict what Nintendo is going to be doing next.
No, you can't.
I like Fire Emblem, and I really love turn-based strategy games, but I don't think I played one on the NES ever. It's probably more of a 16-bit game, and it's cool seeing like the two characters at the top of the screen, about to do battle with each other. It immediately brings to mind the Shining Force series on the Sega Genesis, which was probably close to my first introduction to that whole series. So I don't know. I'm really excited to check out how that plays in an 8-bit game. Sam, do we receive a couple packages in the mail? I know you went into the office recently.
Yes, I did. So to the Game Scoop crew, we got a package, and I'll split these up. I'm going to do one this week. This is from the Caraway Tea Company. They know we have some tea fans on staff, right? Mm-hmm. And Wayne is a fan and wrote us. And there's a pretty cool thing that he sent us here. So he says, thanks for the opportunity to send you Caraway Tea products and to get them to your cohorts. I'm sending enough tea for the Common Games crew to have 4 teas. But honestly, if someone doesn't enjoy it or want it, that's fine too. You can give it to a neighbor, friend, or someone in the IGN family. He says, tea is not for everyone. Some people are real, all caps, coffee freaks. You know the type. Anyway, that's enjoy really the teas. All right, so I'm going to go through them, and then he said some nice stuff. And okay, so there's a brewing guide for teas here. All right,
wow, this is
and
hardcore.
So it has like the first one. The first one is called Princess Peach. Let me find one. Here we go. Sorry, my wrist was not positioned to do that right. So there's Princess Peach.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is this like officially licensed?
I was gonna say I'm a little.
Yeah, it's like he specially labeled these ones, but like it's a full vacuum sealed consumer brand product. It's not just like in a Ziploc baggie. But yeah, so it's a this one says like the Precious Princess, this tea will be slightly sweet and beautiful to look at. And I thought that was really cute. And I'm not going to read these for all of them, but he says brew 4 to 5 minutes at 212 degrees, not 210, Damon. Yeah. All right. We also got Resident Evil.
Wow,
the
that's pretty good. It's good.
T-Virus also in there. There we go.
T-Virus.
All right. We got oh gosh. I think this is a reference to English breakfast, but Hyrule breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Is that what it's a reference to?
Yeah.
I don't know my teas. It's like this.
English breakfast.
And then we have Final Fantasy.
Took a few steps.
Yeah, and it looks like this. So Final Fantasy tea is it has the ingredients too. It's like organic green tea, organic calendula petals, blueberry pieces, blue mallow blossoms, raspberry granules, jasmine flowers, natural blackberry, jasmine flavor. That's a lot of stuff going on in this Final Fantasy tea. And then finally, because all of these had good names, and he knows we're a big fan of jokey names, he gave a list of the names that he didn't use.
Oh, wow. The rejections.
Yeah. Samus Orange.
Okay.
The Blueberry Bomber. And I hate the Blue Bomber. I think that's so funny. God of Orange. And that's just orange. Cute, right? All right. And John Moore will like that one. Then we have Green Hill Zone. I guess it's because green tea, right? Green Hill Zone.
Yeah.
That's from Sonic. Wario, you gonna drink that tea?
What? These are a little bit of a stretch.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Teetles 4. Teetles in Time.
Wow. Okay.
Bionic Kamengo.
Okay. That one I like.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot more of these.
How many more of these are there?
I'm not going to go anymore. I'm gonna leave some to the imagination. Okay, but I will leave you with Camomile's Tails Prower.
Good.
So that's Sonic's.
That's pretty good. I do have to say,
miles per hour with chamomile. You see what's going on there? Mm-hmm. I can explain this more.
I am a little disappointed. What's the name of our sender?
Wayne.
I'm a little disappointed that Wayne didn't go with a tie-in with the video game Steep.
Man, let me see if there's just Steep in here. Yeah. Anyway, he says, he says you're number 519 fan and number 26 nemesis. I don't know what that means. And he says, P.S. All tea is lovingly prepared by my coworker and fiance Julia Amberg. And PSS, we usually outsource labels for customers, so the quality isn't the best, but we tried our sweet little NY Hearts best. He's from New York. So they do these custom teas for people. That's their business, which I think is really neat. Anyway, thank you for the teas, and then we have some big tea fans on the staff here that we will get these to.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Are they loose leaf teas, Sam?
I don't know what that means. What do you think?
They are.
I've been meaning to get one of those metal steeper things.
I thought you just put this whole thing in your mug.
Oh yeah, plastic and everything.
All right, that's been Tea Scoop. I have one for next week as well.
Okay.
Is it also tea?
Please be excited.
I called it Tea Scoop.
Okay, another email. This is Kev from Sheffield. Kev says, Sheffield is home of Sumo Digital. He says, as a 38-year-old British gamer, my formative years were a very different experience than yours. I often hear about these days on even brilliant game shows such as your own, and I just wanted to raise this as I feel it's a part of gaming that isn't really recognized. Growing up, it was very rare to meet people with an NES. No one ever mentioned Contra or Mega Man, a whole host of other games that now have risen to classic status. We didn't have the video games Crash. We never buried anything in the moors, which is the closest we have to a desert, I believe. We never had the experience of not owning a lot of games because tapes and discs were so cheap in comparison to carts. So the Amiga, Commodore 64, Spectrum, Acorn, Sinclair, Amstrad, Atari ST, even the BBC Micro are machines that are hugely important. And whilst it might not look like a fantastic era in retrospect, without it, we wouldn't have had Grand Theft Auto, Wipeout, Tomb Raider, Football Manager, Total War, XCOM, anything made by Rare, and a whole host of others, all of which are titles from British and European studios who trace their roots back to that tape and disc scene in some form. I hope you read this out. If for no reason, then it would be cool to hear the names of my favorite machines on my favorite podcast.
One's called an Acorn.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about gamers who like grew up in the 80s, early 90s, just having different experiences based on where you live.
Yeah, I mean, once Jared Petty didn't work here anymore, we kind of stopped hearing about the ZX Spectrum as much as we used to, didn't we, when he was on the show?
Yeah, that's true.
That's absolutely true. I would, yeah. There was an era of Game Scoop in which we were very representative of obscure British PC systems. We are just past that. So if you missed that era of British PC games, like our question earlier, he just answered what you missed, which I think is really convenient. Now we know.
It's true.
some of those games made their way over onto like DOS, and so I have some memories of them from my youth, but no, like obviously, all of us were playing games on the NES or on other home consoles.
Yeah, for sure.
It blew my mind the first time there was like a rare collection here where it was like, oh, I thought I was going to be seeing Battletoads and stuff like that, and then it was like all this crazy PC stuff. They made so many games, and they're like pretty neat.
Yeah,
you gotta wonder, like console wise these days, like kids that are growing up with this generation, or the last few generations of consoles, like dependent on what your parents decided you were going to be committing your allegiance to, like what was your experience like versus a friend's. If you don't have, like, if you're strictly PlayStation or strictly Xbox or whatever else. I think that's why a lot of people grew up with Halo or not. Based on that.
Yeah, there's definitely developed parts of the world that have completely different ecosystems for games, and Brazil is really different than here. There was retro systems there that were still producing games until pretty recently that we call retro, like the Genesis. And then there's China, which doesn't have a lot of of the same console stuff, but a huge PC gamer system there, and there's government regulation, all kinds of stuff that change how people perceive games in a giant country on Earth right now.
Yeah, only in the last few years did China allow video game consoles to be sold there again.
This is like your kids too.
There's no more StarCraft 2 content for them.
Is it not? Is it banned from there?
No. It's huge on the East, but it's also not like Blizzard is not developing content for it anymore.
That's right. It just
patches
stopped.
And fixes. Yeah.
Yeah. Scoop.
They're like, we're done.
A couple of GDCs ago, Tina and Sam and I went to a talk from the creator of Lemmings. The retro game Postmort, is that what they call it? Classic gaming Postmort?
Classic game, yeah.
Signosis.
Anyway, that is sort of like the era that Kev from Sheffield, I think, is referring to there.
Yeah, and they showed like, they all worked on, PC games and like little offices and stuff. It was like a very indie scene, and that company, became elements of Rockstar and stuff like that. He's exactly right in pointing out like we wouldn't have these giant things without that PC scene there. I like that point about tapes and discs being, cheap ways to distribute stuff. The underlying thing there is that they're cheap because they're rewritable. So you just stole everything. We were unable to do a lot of game bootlegging in the United States when we were all growing up, because like if you had a PlayStation 2, you probably just got used PlayStation 2 games. You didn't get a bunch of burned PlayStation 2 copies. But boy, it was not like that before 1990 on PCs, and even in the 90s, right? Everything you got was stolen. That's still like a huge underground market for cracked PC games, obviously. But man, if that's all you had was like big discs of free games, like that's pretty cool.
Extracurricular activities. A couple episodes ago, I commanded Scoop Nation watch Cobra Kai on Netflix. If you have finished Cobra Kai and you're looking for something else, I finished season 2 of The Boys, and it's really, really good. Highly recommend it. It is well documented on the show that I like blood and guts, and The Boys is a satisfactory show for me. Tina, have you watched season 2?
Yes, and they somehow managed to one-up themselves every single episode as far as the blood and guts go. You're like, what is it possibly going to be next time? Just a sea of blood in every scene. But Maybe. They did it.
And aside from that, I think it's a really good show. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I loved it. And I just finished season 1 of Cobra Kai because it's literally the only TV show my oldest brother will watch. And he has been rewatching every single episode with me.
Are you into it?
Very much so, yeah. I mean, I liked Karate Kid growing up. I love that they're playing into the he deserved more, and like actually making a whole show out of it. There's an interesting dichotomy of like person who grew up in that time period and is now confronted with students of a more woke culture, and some of that dynamic being played out, which is probably relevant to a lot of Americans these days. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's on my to-do list. That's my next up. I just finished Avatar. I'm going to do that next. But I'm thinking about taking... I don't know whether to do this yet. I was wondering if you guys have watched it, but I kind of want to watch the new Haunting season because it's a spooky time of year.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of horror, but I'm like 7 episodes in and it just hasn't really struck me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Basically, yeah, it's just different than the first or the first the first Haunting
series
from last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a different context for this time around.
Mm-hmm.
But our review mentioned something that I kind of agree with too, which is it's just got a much slower pace and it doesn't have the same kind of scares or thrills. So it's just slower.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Pear
So
says
Cobra
it's a
Kai
7.
first.
A 7.
Yeah, that's Pear's rating.
Yeah, I'll give it a score when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm still pushing through.
All right, that's good.
But
That helps me make my call.
But then, what do you think of Avatar, Sam?
I loved it. It was so good. It gets better and better too. Like they kind of rethrow all of the same relationships at each other and mix them all up, and everybody, you find a different side of everybody except for Zuko's sister, who's just evil the whole time. And it's really, really fun, and I really like how it wrapped up. And then I hated the very last scene. I thought it was very gross and weird.
Gross. Wow.
Yeah. I forget what the last scene was.
It was the kiss.
Yeah.
It was a kiss.
Yeah. It was all building towards that.
It did build towards that. It just felt very strange, and I was surprised that it ended up that way. But I did like how the rest of the series resolved, and there's so many elements, like you were mentioning for Cobra Kai, with Star Wars in it, and I know that team went on to work on the Star Wars cartoons. If you,
I also loved Lovecraft Country, and I think unpopular opinion, but I like Raised by Wolves too.
Oh, is that unpopular? No way. That show's dope. That's great.
Yeah,
I've heard some people like pass on it fairly early on, and it is weird. Like the first episode, you are kind of weirded out by it. Like, what are these androids and these like futuristic costumes that are just really form fitting? Like, what's the point of this? But once you get beyond the first episode and like actually accept the universe and the lore and the costume work and whatnot, then it gets really good.
The Davis household loves Raised by Wolves.
Wow,
good to know.
That's the Ridley Scott one.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay.
Well, he did the pilot episode.
Okay.
Was it all released at once, or is it in season?
It was week by week.
Okay.
Then now it's all done.
Okay, cool. That's what I was waiting for.
I watched Ted Lasso, and it's my favorite new show of the year. It's just the best. It's a 10 out of 10. It's the most uplifting, perfect thing to be watching in 2020. Best show. Ted Lasso.
So I've heard that name, but I don't know anything about it. Like, what's the elevator pitch?
It's about an American football coach who is sort of a doofus. He's sort of a hick, but then it turns out he's actually very smart. Like that's the conceit of his character. And then he goes over to England to teach football, like a soccer team, a Premier League soccer team, and doesn't know what he's doing. But then eventually wins them all over. And he's just a very heartfelt, genuine, nice, kind guy that wins everybody over. And like they all start out against him and they all end up being on his side by the end of the show.
It's SNL Jason, right?
Jason Sudeikis, yeah.
Jason Sudeikis, yeah.
Yeah, he's the main character. And it's on Apple TV, which I still get. I got free for a year because I bought an iPad. So it's like you got a free year of Apple TV. Then they sent me an email that's like, oh, you can have it free for another 3 months. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Sure,
so, it's I think a lot of people are probably still in their free Apple TV period, and I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Wow, a sports show at the top of Justin's list.
Yeah, but it's not a sports show. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, it's not about soccer in the same way. Well, I don't have an analogy about it, but that's there in the background, but it's not what the show's actually about.
It must be like Friday Night Lights, where you don't have to be a big football fan, right, to love Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Okay, and that brings us to video game 20 questions. Our suggestion this week comes from Joshua No, and he actually has an easy mode and a hard mode. I know two of us have a hard out at 3:30, so we'll start on easy mode and we'll see how it goes. Let the questioning begin.
We don't get like a sentence to.
No, he didn't provide any meta hints.
We got too many hints last time. So
although
decided no more sentences.
This is supposedly an easy mode game. So.
Right.
Is it a spooky game?
No.
Then why did you pick it? You know what time we're all wearing Halloween elements.
Not yet.
The guy said he wanted something spooky.
Is it from this generation?
No.
Is this a 90s game?
No.
Bleh.
It's a platform exclusive?
Yes.
Is it exclusive on a Sony platform?
No. That's 5.
Is this a Nintendo game?
No.
Well, I thought it was easy mode.
Is this exclusive on an Xbox platform?
No.
Oh no.
So PC.
I think it's Angry Birds.
Should we say is it a mobile game?
I don't really think it's
Sure.
Is
Angry
that
Birds.
easy mode?
Yeah.
We
go
never
for
talked
it.
about mobile games, so that feels like it wouldn't.
Well, it's either from a weird system from before the 90s, before the console wars mattered, or it's on a Sega system, or it's on a system after 2000. That's
But it wouldn't be a Sega system if it's not a 90s game, probably. I mean, it could be, obviously, but like unlikely. I don't know what that leaves us with. PC? Is this a PC exclusive?
No.
Damn it.
I feel like we're burning questions on this easy one.
Well,
Gotta
supposed to
figure
be
out what
this way.
exclusive it is. Is it a Sega game?
No.
All right.
Man,
Maybe
is
it's
it
an
a
arcade game.
Is it a mobile game?
No. And that's
Oh
10.
boy. Oh
Great.
boy.
Is it an arcade game?
No.
What are you doing to us?
I'm not doing anything. Joshua No is doing this.
So hold on. Let's take a beat.
I guess it's a TurboGrafx game.
Yeah, it's
I
not.
guess it's a
There's
Tamagotchi.
It's not a 90s game, and it's not a current gen game. I think it's unlikely to be a 2000s game because it's also not a Sega, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, mobile, arcade, or PC game.
Is this from before 1990?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
Atari.
Atari, yeah, it's something Atari or ColecoVision or something. Is this an Atari exclusive?
Yes.
Great.
You know, that's actually kind of hard because
If it
everything came to everything.
To not be on arcades.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that narrows it down.
I mean, E.T.
adventure. Is this based on a license?
Yes.
Is this game notoriously horrible and just really, really, just truly bottom of the barrel?
Yes. That's 15.
It's E.T.
It is ET.
E.T.
It is ET for the 2600. 1982.
Nice.
Man, we almost got worked there.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That was
went down a bad path.
All right. Well, that was your warm up for hard mode.
Oh boy.
God.
Did this game come out before January 1st, 1990?
No.
It's not another Atari game.
It's from after 2000.
Yes.
Is it a platform exclusive?
No.
Is it on Switch?
Yes.
Thank God. All right, we got this.
It's part of a series.
No. That's
Is this
fine.
game-
Ooh.
Is this game on a Switch cart?
This is kind of a roller coaster right now.
If it is, it'd be like a limited run games situation.
Okay.
It wasn't initially released on a cart.
So if it's a Switch game, it's a Switch eShop port.
Is this an indie game?
Yes.
Is this a indie game developed in the United States?
No.
Does
Is
this
this-
dev have any other game?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
Not that I know of.
Yeah,
Google
because
it.
like Stardew Valley and stuff like that.
Yeah, although I think,
Those one
well,
off.
maybe he's not. He might be Canadian. I don't know if he's in the U.S. But okay, was this game developed in Japan?
No. That's 10.
Could be Undertale.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if he's in the U.S. either. If Toby Fox is here, I don't know where he lives.
Huh.
Oh, so this developer has made other games. I just didn't realize they were the developer of these other games.
Okay.
Okay, noted.
Is there a strong narrative element to this game?
No.
Is it a roguelike?
No.
I think it's Ding Dong XL.
Did you make that up? I don't even know what that is.
What
Yes,
are
you
you talking
do.
about? Yeah,
We played it every day. We played it every
For
day
like
for
a
like a month.
Yeah, it was on the show. I have a shirt.
I don't recall.
That's the game with the ball thing bouncing back and forth. We have to dodge the shapes that we played on the big TV that we played for like a month.
Yeah. Ugh.
That game's great. I bought that game 3 times now on my computer, Switch, and phone.
It's on Switch though, so
Is this like a high score driven game?
No.
But it's also
not narrative, huh?
and not narrative. Is it a roguelike?
No, we asked that already.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
right. And no.
Yeah.
What was
Okay.
it?
Is this a loot-based game?
No.
Does this game have like a 8-bit, like 8 or 16-bit pixel aesthetic to it?
Yes. Wait a minute. That's 15. Yes, that's 15.
What was that platformer?
It wasn't. It's not
What was
10?
what was the platformer?
Mutant
that came
Mudds?
out? Yeah, that's not what I was thinking of. I was thinking of the ninja one, that Katana Zero. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Katana Zero, and then there's also the dig games.
Yeah, SteamWorld. Is Katana Zero the one that switches between 8 and 16-bit, or what was that game?
Yes, it did that. I think so.
Okay.
But there was another game that did that
I
too.
remember that. It's where you can rewind time
What?
in Katana Zero.
And you rewind it to like an 8-bit look, right?
No, I don't recall
Okay,
any of that. You can if you mess up, you can rewind your moves.
I
might be thinking of a different game.
Style.
Yeah.
There was some game that came out recently that had both art styles in it, and it was like the first half of the game, then the second half.
Is there like ninja fighting in this game?
There is there's a ninja in it.
Okay, so it's not Katana Zero then.
Maybe it's a Nidhogg game.
Oh yeah.
Are Nidhogg games on the eShop?
2?
I don't know. There's a ninja in the game, but Damon won't commit to ninja fighting.
Is this a 2-player, or is this a competitive 2-player game?
No.
Like all fighting games would be that, for example.
Mm-hmm. So we're assuming single player.
Do we have 3 questions left, Damon?
You have 2 questions and a guess.
Shoot. Is it helpful to know? We don't know that it's a platformer or like a 2D side scroller.
Yeah,
I'm just assuming that.
Yeah. Well, let's go down the ninja path. There is a ninja in the game. Maybe it's like a boss or a singular enemy.
And it is hard mode, so it's probably unlikely to be Katana Zero or something that's like a little bit more well known. Kitty agrees.
I actually don't know if you actually kill stuff in this game. That's not narrative though, so would it be? Maybe it's puzzle.
Not a ninja in it.
Yeah.
Could it be that game
You're
that
gonna
Damon
put a
likes?
ninja and not fight?
Yeah, like that puzzle fighter type stuff. What's the Bubble Bobble Puyo Puyo type thing? Does that have characters in it?
No. Bust a move. I
kind of want to ask if we've reviewed the game.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because if we didn't, then surely it is far more obscure.
Yeah, that's great.
Or if it was well received.
Yeah, you should ask if we reviewed it. I think that's good.
That's good.
Okay, did we? Yes, look it up. Of course we didn't.
Hold, please.
Kitty, just wait.
I hope we did.
Should we ask if it's a spooky game?
I think you asked. Oh wait, you asked that the last round.
Okay. Yes.
We reviewed it.
IGN did review it.
Should we ask if Tom Marks reviewed it?
Probably. Can we phone a friend?
Yeah, exactly. If we guess the reviewer, can we call the reviewer?
It could still.
We should have one of those options for hard modes. Phone a friend or whatever.
Pretty cute.
What is the name of that game? I think it's probably that game.
Which one?
The one that has both 8-bit and 16-bit modes in it. Kitty.
Is this a platformer?
Yes.
Yeah.
That brings us to our guess.
Now we have to guess.
Your hint is that this is a Super Damon game. I played the heck out of it, but I'm probably the only one of us that did.
Yeah.
What was the one? I mean, well, it's not the one that you reviewed. Damon reviewed. You reviewed that eShop game not too long ago, Damon, that had an 8-bit art style. But you would not have to hesitate to know whether we reviewed it if you reviewed it.
No, we all forget what games we've reviewed before, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
On this show, no less.
Yeah, I remember Damon liking a game like this and knowing about it. I just don't remember it at all.
The one I'm thinking of Panzer Paladin, but Damon would have. It's not Panzer Paladin. Damon, did you review Panzer Paladin?
No, Seth did.
It might be Panzer Paladin. I don't know if that game has a ninja.
What about? Oh man, no, it's not that. Because that would be obvious. I think we would, because I'm thinking of roguelikes like Dead Cells and stuff like that. So it's not that.
Could be Dead Cells.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's a roguelike though.
Yeah, I think we have to give this one up.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I reveal it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to guess?
I don't have
to
a
throw something out there.
Well, I mean, is it Katana Zero?
No.
Okay.
It is not.
Rip.
Released in 2015. Developed by Free Lives, the South African studio Free Lives, which also did Genital Jousting and the VR game Gorn. And this game was published by Devolver Digital.
Mm-hmm.
It is a run and gun platformer called Broforce.
Oh.
Right.
I remember seeing that name.
Yeah, I remember seeing it at a PAX or something.
It's like a Contra-like?
Yes, but that really leans into 80s action hero tropes and characters that are very literally based on 80s action heroes. There's like Brobocop, Conan the Brobarian, Bromando. It's all
What's
like
up with the ninja?
They're like, it's like there's Chuck Norris in there, there's Van Damme in there, so one of those guys has got to be a ninja. In that
those aren't ninjas.
There's
you don't even know for sure that there's a ninja?
There's Bruce Lee in there too. There's got to be a ninja in there. I'm confident there's a ninja in Broforce somewhere because there's so many different characters.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't play it. I looped that game in with like what was it, like Super Time Force, and like there's those games had like a resurgence there for a hot second.
Yeah, for sure. And The Messenger is the game you're thinking of that switches between 8 and 16-bit art styles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Lording it over us.
Nope. And there you go. Now you two of us have 7 minutes to do whatever they want with before their 3:30 meeting. Everybody, please be excited for next week's Game Spook episode 600. Apparently, Sam will have another T-scoop for us. But that is all the scoops that I have for you this week. Thank you to Tina. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Borba. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address, gamescoop@ign.com. My name is Damon. This is IGN Gamescoop, and we're out.